Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I hope you are enjoying the summer wherever you are. There's still a month away, like to still enjoy that piece of it before we all go back to whatever reality that is. So I hope you still have a couple more weeks to go. And today we're very excited with this conversation because it's a conversation that I think keeps coming up, at least for United Latinas, in different places, in different spaces, and with different people. And it has to do with our money mindset, right? With building that trust in our financials, but not only in our physical financials, like in the way we approach our finances, because it's something that many of us did not grow up with, or we didn't have anybody to help us, navigate those. It's not something that comes natural to us. So we've had to learn the good way or the not so good way along the way. So I always love, having our experts like Jennifer come in and share their experience, but also their advice so that hopefully we can, learn from there and pass it on to our kids as well so that they don't have to go through the challenges that we went through. So, Jennifer, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Excited for our conversation today.
Wonderful. So you've been there, done that. So the work that you do in terms of supporting women from a financial perspective is not something that you're just passionate about, which I know you're passionate about. But there's an origin story. There's a reason why you got to where you are today, and made you so passionate about this. If you can run us through what happened.
Oh, yeah. Yes, of course. Well, I always say that the best way to be a teacher is to been through it, to been through that experience. So that's why I'm so passionate about this work because honestly, my story comes from literally pivoting not only careers, but also cultural expectations. I had to, at the middle of a pivotal career path from science to finance, I was also making the difficult decision of becoming a single mom and running away, breaking apart from a relationship because it no longer served me and wasn't healthy. It wasn't in a healthy environment, and I had to start from scratch. I had to rebuild myself not only mentally, emotionally, and physically, but also financially. And this is when I had to start questioning myself about my belief systems, this, my vision, my future, the best decisions that I needed to make strategically, and analyze and reflect on where I was at the moment and how I could move forward. Because I no longer wanted to be stagnant. I no longer wanted to just operate from a survival space, and just feeling like I had to live day by day. And it's still a very long journey because I felt like we never finish. It's never an ending finish line. We always have space for growth, always something new to learn and implement. And that's why I'm so passionate to teaching other women how to rebuild from scratch whenever they're pivoting or coming out of a relationship that no longer serves them, as a mother, as a provider, and how they can build that financial confidence and systems and basically blueprint so that they can build that life that they so yearn for.
I agree, and your story, unfortunately, I think is a story that many of us go through in different ways, and it shouldn't, right? Like I wrote down, like operating from this survival state. In a lot of cases, many of us sort of like normalize it. It's a that's how life is, and you just wing it and make it happen, and it shouldn't. Like there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we can be there, but we don't know. Many of us, we don't know what we don't know, because that's what we saw from our parents. That's what we're seeing in our environment, and therefore we believe
Communities.
that's exactly that's the right way to go about it.
Yes.
When you and I were chatting about, this the approach for this conversation, you sent me something. I was like, yes, like that resonates with me, and it's this thinking of I am bad with money. So it's not
Mhm.
only about our financial situation and the pressures that are happening right now and that have always happened in some way or form, but it's also the belief that we're it just doesn't work for me. Like I was just not made for this. And can
Correct.
you walk us through, because I know that that is something that you do a lot with, your clients, and helping them rebuild that confidence and move away from you're not bad with money, you just don't know what you don't know, right? So can you share a little bit more about that?
Yes, I feel like we could talk here and talk for hours about this specifically because it is one of the most complex aspects to really grasp, but also implement and see, an actual tangible result in our lives. Because when we talk about mindset, is really very deep ingrained in us. A lot of times it doesn't only come from season like a season that you had to go through and that's something a belief or a trauma that was instilled in you that it's basically an outcome out of that. Sometimes it comes from like the money story that we had built from kids because of our surroundings, our family, our cultural beliefs and standards that were passed to us. So this belief of I am bad with money, it's yes, so it's a belief. And basically I would say when we use the I am, it has this very strong it's such a strong statement because it means it is your identity. And I am, anything that you attach to an I am becomes your identity. So when we talk about I am bad with money because I make X, Y, and Z decisions, we're looking, we have to look at more than, we have to look at circumstances more than that. Because you have to question yourself, am I operating from a place of peace, stability, or a strategic place because I'm thinking long term? Or am I operating from a place of survival mode? And this is where most of us are stuck in. When we are really operating from like survival mode, we're not asking about like, okay, what's the best financial decision for me right now? What is the best approach? Where am I at the moment that's making me feel this way towards my finances? We're thinking about today, like, am I going to be able to pay my utility bills? Am I going to be able to keep a roof over my head? I'm not going to make my next credit card payment. So you're thinking about the now, and it's like this fear driving every decision. um so you're under pressure, you're afraid. And sometimes when we are just operating from survival mode, there's lack of information, maybe lack of resources. And I think for me, this is a big one, is we have a very short emotional capacity to deal with the things that we have to deal with. And already making a financial decision puts a lot on us because we have to consider so much. So I think the reframe here is we have to make a distinction between I am bad with money versus saying I made this financial decision because it didn't serve me at the moment. One of them is really describing an action, which is the second statement that I made. It describing an action, just a decision. This is neutral. I made this decision, um, and maybe it was right or maybe it was wrong, but I can sit down and reflect on it, so I can examine this. I can look at the outcome. Maybe I can correct it long term or on the way, and I can, if it was a really really bad decision, the worst case scenario, I can learn from it. And in life, nothing is gonna be perfect. We're always gonna make mistakes. And the only way for us to grow and become better at something is learning from it. So I think that's like one of the best things to know is this I am really becomes our identity. And every decision that we make is basically filtered through it. And most times, because it becomes your identity, every decision that you make, you're going to make it trying to basically prove this statement right. And that's why we continue to avoid looking at our numbers. We continue to, maybe make a plan or putting systems or asking for help or even speaking up, because there's just the avoidance part of it is very natural to our body. Our brain is trying to avoid us, our body, trying to avoid us to feel shame and guilt. These two feelings are a lot to deal with. None of us want to really feel this way. So that's why the avoidance part comes in most times. We're always avoiding something. And this is part of us trying to just not really accept the truth of that this is part of our identity. I don't want to accept that I am bad at something. Do you want to accept that you're bad at doing something? And one of the most like funny and things that I could relate to, or like maybe very simple example, is like I remember maybe early college years, high school, middle school, whenever we used to come across a subject that we didn't like or that it was difficult because we needed help or we needed to admit that we were bad at something, right? Like I need to admit that I'm bad at something, or that, like I need to prove extra hours. I would say I'm bad at math. Like I am bad at math, so I hate math. I'm bad at my history subject, so I hate it. Um, so we start to make this as part of our identity, and the truth is, it can be addressed, it can be fixed. We maybe just need to look for someone that can support us in the process, a coach, a support group that you can feel safe to open up about the things that you're struggling with. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter at which state you are, or the amount of money that you're making. Some of us are really still struggling with certain things around finances, and it's like the saying that goes around saying like new devils bring new devils. It doesn't matter whether right now you might be making 6 figures or 5 figures. Once you start making more money, there's going to be a different challenge that you have to address around your finances. But it's not for you to go and become and be make that part of your identity that you're bad at doing that. It's just for you to look at ways to learn from it, grow from it, and create systems to address it.
I love what you're saying, because as a coach, from a leadership perspective or a presence perspective, it's the same, right? It's first accepting or reaching out to other people, because we don't need to have the answers. We just need to grow the courage to reach out to somebody else that can help us, find that answer, even if that answer is within ourselves. However, there's two big words that you use, and they still become a barrier for us to do a lot of things, and that is guilt and shame. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There is still a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, uh, especially in women, especially in Latinas,
Yeah.
to accept any of these things. And it's not acceptance, because we might say, yeah, like this is not for me, but just being able to say, hey, I'm stuck in this situation. I don't know how to move forward
Mm-hmm.
because of this self perception that we should know, right? We should
Yes.
have the knowledge, or we should have done this, and because we see everybody else doing it, or whatever it is, and that's where the shame and the guilt. So what is that first step for that you've seen, you know, in terms of people being able to overcome that shame, and in order to be able to overcome that guilt, and then reach out to you or somebody else to help them in
Mm-hmm.
rebuilding that, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah, I think that is definitely one of the hardest parts of it and the hardest choice, because I would say the first step then it would be to build awareness and gain clarity. We cannot fix and address something if we don't know where we are and where is it that we're lacking. And we talk a lot about building financial confidence, feeling confident with our money. But whether you do it on your own or you reach to someone, to a coach, to help you gain that confidence and gain that clarity and create those systems, it is going to be nearly impossible to do it without you really understanding what financial confidence is. And I think when we talk about financial confidence, we are expecting ourselves to never make a mistake because now we have information. Now we might have a support system. And now you know what not to do. But that is not the actual truth. I think financial confidence is not the absence of mistakes, it's actually our ability to use these mistakes as information to lead us forward, and use it as a ground or soil to grow. That would be like the best way to explain this. So again, where to start with this? You need to really understand where are your actual mistakes coming from. Like what is it that you're repeating constantly? You need to know what is it, because again, we're most of us are just operating from survival mode. We're going on a day-to-day basis, um, and we just really don't even sit down and really understand how where you're operating from. Why am I doing this? You need to sit down and be very reflective about that. Understand why is it that you're spending money that way that you're spending money. Why is it that you continue to maybe ignore something? What are the feelings that are coming across? And you need to be aware that, build awareness. And the best tool that I always give to someone is journal about these things. You don't have to openly go and share it with someone if you don't feel comfortable to do it yet, but journal about it so that you continue to build that awareness muscle. The second is you need to understand what needs to change. So right now, if you feel like you just don't know, and I think this is one of the biggest issues that I see across everyone, they don't even know how much money is coming in or how much money is coming out. So what needs to change in order for you to at least have some clarity? Maybe I need to implement a budget. It doesn't mean that that budget is gonna stay with you forever, like that budgeting system that you're using at the moment, but maybe at the moment it's going to give you some clarity. What system can you implement at the moment right now that is going to remove some friction? Because one of the things as well that um, re- leaves us stagnant at a certain place is that we have friction from taking action because we don't want to do that thing. So building systems or putting a system in place basically will allow us to remove a friction from making a decision, because most times we're just afraid to make that decision. So what can we implement there? And then the other thing is also reframing the way that you're talking about money with yourself, right? Every time that you make a decision with your money or that you feel that you're doing something incorrect, your identity of that I am bad with money will come with shame, and it's going to remind you, well, this is why you always, mess up. This is proof that I am never going to be good at this, right? And it's going to remind you, well, this is who you are. This is happening to you because this is who you are, versus reframing that and working on reframing that. And again, this is not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. It's one of the hardest things to get to really improve. Um, is changing the perspective of saying, well, I made this decision and this happened. Again, let me understand this, but let me correct it along the way. With just implement one thing. Let me implement it one way. And just because we have a setback again, it doesn't mean that it's going to erase all the work that you've been doing. And I think that's one of the things that biggest things that would not allow us to move forward and motivate us is that we having a setback, like, oh, I'm paying debt, and now maybe I found myself in a situation where I had to pay for an emergency with a credit card. I'm back like on my credit card max limit. Now I'm disappointed. This seems like a setback, but you have done so much work, not only with your mindset, but maybe you already have implemented systems. Maybe you already have a budget in place. How about that? Celebrate that. And I think as women, we do struggle to look for the really small pieces of things we've implemented and have that has helped us to progress and move forward and celebrate that. And we really put more weight on the negative things that would really push us away from the final goal.
I love what you're saying, especially the weight on the negative things, which could be one in a thousand correct ones, right? But that's the one that pulls it. Um, and with that, we are talking about the decisions that we make, the risks that we take or not take, or the things that we approach. But part of that one thing that went wrong can also be from I trusted this person and I heard the recommendation, and that recommendation was not the right recommendation. I
Mm,
went forward with it, and then there was a mistake in that, and we see that happening very often, especially if we're not fully knowledgeable on certain things like investments and things like that. And you know what, there's a bad investment, it goes bad, and then the trust
mhm.
of trying to ask for help sort of
Go
goes
away.
away, and then we don't do it, and it's like, yep, tried it, didn't work, lost money, I'm putting
Yeah.
the money back in my
Mhm,
mattress, right?
mhm,
So,
mhm.
are there any suggestions in how to better, I don't know, like figure out who to trust and who not to? Are there things that, steps to validate, like, is this person really looking out for me, or are they just, I don't want to say a scam, but in a way, sometimes they are, right? Are
Yeah.
there things that you can tips that you can provide?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question because nowadays with social media and with how people really can sell themselves, you can really have hopes that this person that you might want to work with is going to change your life. But I think the best way to go about how to choose to work with someone is creating a checklist for yourself, right? I think whenever I even decide to hire a coach or anything, there's things that I am looking for in someone before I give a definite yes. But the first thing, because it's very sensitive when it comes to choosing someone to help you with investments, for instance, those things are very sensitive. So you have to be sure um, that you verify their credentials, right? Because somebody that's giving investment advice should be licensed to do something like that. And making sure that they're licensed by the state with wherever they're located. And that also it is still valid, because some licenses might be revoked. So I think that's like the key thing to really look for whenever you're working with someone, for instance, in investments. And I would even say like a coach, right? Make sure that whoever you work with is somebody that also works on themselves, right? And I mean, because you really don't need to follow a specific career path to be a coach, but if they're a certified coach, right, that is really giving you maybe, a very clear statement that this person is investing in themselves to really grow in that area, to make sure that they're serving the clients in the best way possible. But in terms of like my checklist, right, I need to know what is the end result or the goal that I'm looking for to achieve, that this person could really push me forward to get there. Um, and when you're working or trying to hire a professional, right, make sure that there's an engagement letter at least that is being, and that's in place, because an engagement letter really puts in place the expected work that is being provided by that person, what is expected of them, and what is expected of you as a client as well. And I think engagement letter is very important in any line of work. um, it cannot only be verbal agreement nowadays, unfortunately, because you cannot just trust somebody that's going to tell you that they're going to provide you XY service. But what yes, make sure that the end results. Make sure that there's an engagement letter. Basically, it's like a contract in place whenever you're moving forward with that person. And I would say, other than that, is very clear communication. Um, if you want to research the person as well, make sure to do so. And I think also reviews say a lot. So if this person is just a coach, and they have, they've been established for a while, make sure and go look at what other people, other clients are saying, because reviews could really say a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. Would you ever ask them if you can talk to I know that from a coach perspective,
Mhm.
sometimes people ask like, hey, can I talk to other people that you've coached so that I can see more of what the experience was, what the end result was, etc. I know that from a finance perspective, sometimes that's hard because of a lot of legalities. But would you recommend something like that depending on what they're looking for, or no? Just the
I would,
review.
yeah, I would, yeah, depending on what they're looking for sure. In terms of like specifically in finance, that can be very sensitive. And the reason why I say that is because, we have the responsibility of maintaining a lot of information, um, that cannot really be shared. And I cannot just openly, just share another client's information or maybe even contact information with you without their their say so, or their agreement. So I would say that could be maybe more sensitive, but I think that is totally valid for someone to just request that, because again, I am trusting you and investing in working with you. So I could also uh, set some expectations as to how I want to go about working with someone.
Wonderful. Well, we're coming to the end of today's cafecito, but as always, like you shared a lot of great insights and tactics and things that we can think about. Any like final advice that you want to like, the icing on the cake, and
Yeah.
also where can people find you as well?
Yes. Well, I think when it comes to this topic that we talked about today, my final like phrase to close it would be that you do not have to solve everything today. And I think that's one of the things we have to carry with us all the time. Is like, probably we have put ourselves in we find ourselves in a situation from repeated patterns from years and years and years. You're not going to change that in a month or 6 months. It's going to take some time, and giving yourself grace throughout the process is so important. But also being able to find ways to measure progress so that you celebrate that, instead of remembering yourself that you continue to just do these mistakes, because we sometimes are just prone to do them because we might be under emotional stress, or we don't have any other way of going about a specific situation. But just give yourself grace, keep yourself moving forward, and make sure that you give yourself information as a source of power to make decisions. And the only way of doing that is by not avoiding where you are at financially. You need to gain clarity and always know your starting point, whether you have to start over again, again, and again. It doesn't matter, because nobody's going to judge you for that. We've all done it. So that would be my final message. And the way that you can find me, here on LinkedIn by Jennifer Guzman. And then on social media, Instagram at Loom_financials. And if they want to reach out to me via email, it will be info at loomfinancials.net.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We'll definitely
Thank
drop
you.
those links in, all the different places that we're in so that people can reach out to you. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Jennifer,
so
for
much. Yes.
sharing, all of these insights in such an important topic. So truly appreciate it. And to everybody watching, remember that we have so many things coming up in the second half of the year. We have the Extraordinary Latina Awards right now. So if you haven't self-nominated you should, because I believe that everybody out there is an extraordinary Latina, and you've all done amazing things talking about not validating ourselves, right? So
Mhm.
we definitely should. So nominate yourself, nominate other people for Extraordinary Latina Awards. You can find the awards on our website, and how to, nominate. It's pretty simple, straightforward. We have our fall conference on October 14th. So make sure that you save the date and that you register for that. That one's virtual. So anybody everywhere can attend to that one. So make sure that you do that. And then we are right now in recruiting for volume 6 of Extraordinary Latinas. Jennifer was actually one of our authors,
Yes, I
co-authors, a
was.
best-selling author. So right now we are going into volume 6. Can you believe it? It's been like, it's
Yeah.
impressive. So if there's still time, if you're interested in becoming an author, let us know. Send us an email at hello@unitedlatinas.com, because we're in that process, and we have many, many other things as well. So stay tuned, join us, and be a part of this community so that you can become wealthier. You can create bigger impact, and grow your confidence, and know that this is a community that serves you.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day wherever in the world you
Thank
are.
you. Bye bye.
Bye.